Thank you very much, Andreas, for your inputs here. Um, uh, we are now entering, having now, let's say, the ambience of impact monitoring. We're gonna go deeper into measuring your impacts using the monitoring tool that we have developed in our project here. So based on the logic that we have had throughout the whole workshop series, we started trying to understand which are the main challenges where we can create impacts. After that first definition, then we came up into which were the main impacts that were selected by each kind of organization, tourism operators and hotels, to later on define which are the main products or, let's say, improvements that they can implement in their own organizations to address that particular challenge and that particular impact that you can and will, for example, implement in the future. So from these first three processes that we have already worked in the previous workshops, we are now entering to implement actions. This is to put in practice what we have accomplished so far in this workshop series, to later on implement actions and then measure and monitor the activities that we want to implement. Measuring and monitor then comes up at a later stage to communicate and marketing, but now we're going to focus only in measuring and monitoring. And for this, we have developed an impact measurement tool that will help your organization to accomplish this whole process. So repeating a little bit what Andrea just said, what you can't measure, you cannot improve it. So this is a very important point, a very pivotal point in the whole work that we have been doing in this whole workshop series. Entering a little bit more on what the impact measurement tool is, this tool will help businesses to prioritize ideas, to plan actions, to measure your impact areas that you have already selected, and also to track the progress and improve the communication in relation to the predefined sustainability targets that you have already identified. So this tool will help SMEs to know if the actions are being successful or not successful. It will help your SMEs to build transparency and credibility about the sustainability actions that you have defined. It will help SMEs to communicate this sustainability with customers and also with clients inside and outside Mauritius. Later on, we have made here in a very simple way the whole process of monitoring and measuring your impacts. So as I mentioned before, the first step is to effectively defining an impact and an action where you want to work with. The second will be to define the key performance indicators and targets that you will use to measure that particular action, for example. The third one will be to define the priority of these actions. If you have a whole set of 5 different actions for a particular impact area, then you can start, let's say, putting which is the most important one at first, and later on defining the priority of the other actions. Fourth will be to define who is going to be responsible for doing this monitoring and measurement or data collection, and then propose a timeline to achieve these targets, for example. And fifth, it will be to monitor progress a long time. So this cycle is a continuous improvement cycle that will help your organization to even get better and better on collecting data and on measuring the impacts that you have previously defined. So some results and outcomes for this: hotels can measure and track their progress in their sustainability action plan. They can invest in the most impactful sustainability actions in a result-oriented way. And external stakeholders can recognize and understand hotels or TOs sustainability commitment and achievements. So just this slide, I'm trying to repeat a little bit what we have just seen in the video of Shonino in Bali. And I think that the main message is to make clear that sustainability management and impact monitoring is a team effort, and it takes everyone at your organization to do this. This is not about only one individual being in charge of the monitoring and the measurement of all the sustainability impact areas. This is more about communicating at an organizational level that there should be a commitment and a search for implementing change in terms of sustainability. So everyone should be on board in this process. So it's this slide also, I'm trying to bring up that sometimes people get scared with impact monitoring and measuring data. So this is just to mention that measuring and monitoring, it shouldn't be complicated. It doesn't take long. It can be actually affordable. Janine also mentioned about the ROI, that it comes fast. Of course, it requires an initial investment, but in the long term, or let's say in the mid-term and sometimes short term, the investments can be recovered in some months or even a couple of years. So the impacts that you're creating is not only to make a better environment for your local communities, for the biodiversity, but it's also a way to make your processes more efficient and to reduce costs at an organizational level, besides creating, of course, positive impacts. We have here an image of how this impact monitoring tool looks like. I'm going to show it to you in a brief seconds, but this is just to mention to you that there has been, let's say, a definition of actions and also key performance indicators and targets that were already predefined for each one of the clusters that we have in the impact measurement tool. It's important to remember that this tool is based on the 11 MauPHI criteria that we have been discussing in the previous workshops. So this is not a tool that grew up from nowhere. This is a tool that is based on the information and on the analysis of the 11 MauPHI criteria, as well as for the integrations of the best international standards such as GSTC and MS 165, for example. So here, the main message is that we have already predefined actions that could be implemented for each impact area, KPIs, and also targets. If you want, I can briefly show you how this looks like. I hope you all can see a little bit what I'm showing now on my screen. I have here it's an Excel file. The file starts with an introduction on how to use this tool, on how to define, how to use the definition of impact areas, the definition of KPIs, the priority level, the whole process that we have in MauPHI project of defining targets, generate MauPHI ideas, implementing actions, measuring and monitoring, that this is where we are right now in number 4, and also how to use this tool. So we're having here a very useful tool with explanations on how to be used. And we go to sheet number 2, and we have, let's say, the different clusters of the 11 MauPHI criteria and a description of each one of those, as well as actions that can be implemented. So we have here, for example, the handprint area on the categories and the footprint areas. And we have the whole selection of what we were talking about in the previous workshops. So for example, in footprint, we can go, for example, to resource use, direct energy use. We have here energy use in vehicles or energy efficiency instruments that you're having in your organization. And we can have here, for example, an action could be to implement air conditioning protocols to reduce energy consumption, for example, or install thermostats and set them at a reasonable temperature for the season. And the key performance indicators to measure this is to have this a percentage of reduction in your energy consumption. That could be a monthly electricity bills, could be monthly fuel expenditure for your hotel fleets, for example, or this energy, let's say that those are represented by kilowatts per hour. Those are could be also translated into greenhouse gas emissions. So with the collection of this information, you can actually easily measure your electricity consumption, but also the carbon emissions and greenhouse gas emissions that you are having in your organization. So as long as you implement these actions throughout time, you're gonna also receive the reductions on the consumption of electricity, and then you can track exactly how much are you reducing and how much you can communicate to your local stakeholders that you are creating an impact for resource use, for example. So I'm gonna go back to the presentation slide, and yeah, I wanted to show you here more or less from where we are going here. We have the MauPHI improvement guidelines that are a whole set of actions and ideas on how can you tackle the different impact areas that could be biodiversity, could be community development, energy consumption, waste management, all these actions that could be monitored and tracked with our impact measurement tool that we will provide to you. Afterwards, we measure and we have a clear understanding of on where we are and which is the baseline that we're using, which are the metrics and indicators that we're using. We can make use of this information to make communications internally or externally with stakeholders. So we have also developed a MauPHI communication tool, but this will be part of the upcoming workshop day on the 30th of June. So to provide you a short summary about the impact measurement tool, this is a highly customizable tool that any tourism SME in Mauritius can use. The tool shows the detail of sustainable actions, indicators, targets, and monitoring plan to be defined or selected by an organization. The tool allows a business owner to get a quick understanding of their sustainability performance over time. The tool could be used to communicate sustainability achievements to external stakeholders, clients, customers. And the tool helps business owners to identify areas for improvement and potential innovations. And finally, the tool can help any tourism SME to move towards, let's say, obtaining any sustainability certifications in the future, including MS 165, that we'll hear more about it in the upcoming sessions. So that will be it from my side now.